Good evening and welcome to Trending Tonight. I'm Sanket Upadhyay. Two stories that we are tracking this evening. Story number one, and we are calling this the Singapore fiasco. Whatever had to happen domestically between a chief minister and the external affairs minister and the central government could have happened without involving a country. But it seems that a tweet that went out from the Delhi chief minister, and now in his defense, his political party, Arvind Kejriwal, says that we were only concerned about our children. You know, the mention of Singapore was incidental, has in fact snowballed yesterday into a full-blown international controversy, with Singapore taking cognizance, taking note, and then the External Affairs Ministry stepping in. So centre versus Kejriwal, this war over the Singapore fiasco, how much of this has to do with a statement made in good intention or with good intentions, and a statement made as a result of politics, or the fallout, political fallout also being a result of politics. That's going to be discussion number one. We're also going to look at a life versus livelihood challenge. The latest reports are out as far as this lockdown period is concerned. There's an alarming rise in unemployment again. This report has been filed by the CMIE. It's their data which gives out a clear picture that there is a massive lockdown impact which has been felt. How severe is it? We'll show you those figures, and we'll also speak to the person who heads CMIE. All right, let's first quickly take a look at the chronology or the sequence of events, what happened as far as Arvind Kejriwal's tweet is concerned. So Kejriwal urged the centre to restrict air services to Singapore on account of a new form of corona that came from Singapore. The Delhi Chief Minister tweeted that a new form of corona that came to Singapore is said to be dangerous for children. Singapore then put out a rebuttal saying that there is no truth in assertion that there is a new COVID strain in Singapore. Then the Singapore Foreign Minister, Vivian Balakrishnan, he tweeted saying politicians should stick to facts. The Ministry of External Affairs then tweeted saying High Commissioner has clarified that Delhi Chief Minister has no competence to pronounce on COVID variants or aviation policy. By the way, there was a statement by the Aviation Minister also. And then S. Jaishankar, who's the External Affairs Minister, he put out a strong snub saying Delhi Chief Minister does not speak for India. Aam Aadmi Party then hit back saying that the Chief Minister was only concerned about children. Government is concerned about Singapore. I want to go across to our guest this evening, Ms. Lalita Kumara Mangalam, member of the India Foundation and also member of the Bharatiya Janata Party. We also have Atishi, is the national spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party, and Ambassador K.C. Singh is a former diplomat and a strategic affairs expert. Ambassador Singh, I want to begin with you first. The manner in which these things unfolded, the manner in which it has happened, how much of this do you see as a diplomatic faux pas, and how much of this is perhaps pure domestic politics?
Look, the domestic politics is so toxic at the moment, and the nerves of the ruling party is so frayed that they're just looking for anything to pounce on anyone. Of course, Kejriwal made a mistake. I mean, they should have studied that this is a strain which we have found in India. It's called the double strain. So they jumped the gun. But it was very easily solved without making it toxic and without a foreign minister really stepping down from a nice urbane diplomatic stand. He could have phoned up the chief minister, picked up the phone and spoken to the foreign minister in Singapore, had Kejriwal issue a clarification that he had misunderstood it, that this is not a new strain, and then that's where the matter would have ended. Rather than everybody ratcheting it up and turning it into a slugfest, and therefore polarizing it, and then taking the debate away from the basic issue. So this is very unfortunate that even in the middle of a second wave, when we are worried about a third wave, it's still politics. It's still everybody just wants to milk whatever is available and not step back and say, hey guys, I made a mistake. And the guy says, it's all right. We'll explain it away and tell the Singaporeans, don't jump the gun.
Correct. Nobody's
coming after you. And this is easily resolved.
Absolutely. Atishi is also with us. Atishi, would you like to explain that right now perhaps there must be a feeling in some corner of Mr. Kejriwal's heart that I could have tweeted my intentions a little differently, worded the tweet a little differently. Atishi, can you hear me? Okay, we can't. We don't seem to have that connection with Atishi. We'll go come back to her in just a short moment. Ms. Lalita Kumaramangalam, let me come to you now. You know, you just heard Ambassador Singh what he had to say. Fine, he said what he did, and some of the things that he said may not be, factual. But should this be the way in which this issue be handled? Very openly on Twitter, for the Singaporeans to see that, look, we chided our own chief minister, or one of our chief ministers. He's being notorious, but we have chided him.
Sanket, good evening. I agree in part with both ambassador and what you said. Now, the point here is that the Indian government, and this is not the BJP that has given any statement out. Mr. Jaishankar is the Minister for External Affairs of the country. Kejriwal has made an extremely irresponsible, very unnecessary and very ill-informed statement. The problem is that Singapore did react. Indian government, nor did BJP or the Indian government ask the Singapore government for their opinion on this. They themselves reacted. Kejriwal had no business as the CM of the capital of India to make a statement that was so ill-informed. Having said that, had perhaps the Singapore government not reacted so sharply and so quickly, the whole issue could probably have been played down. But once you have an extremely reliable and a very good neighbor of ours who has held our hand and helped us even through the COVID problems that we are having currently, react in such a negative way, you can't expect the government of India to ignore their feeling of ill will, not ill will, but feeling of hurt or resentment for a man like Kejriwal, who is, by the way, he's also a civil servant. He knows how these things work.
You're saying that had the Singaporeans not reacted, the Indian government would not have reacted.
No, I'm not saying that. Don't put words in my mouth. I'm saying that had the Singaporeans not reacted so angrily and so quickly, perhaps what you and the ambassador have suggested, this could have been played down. We could have asked Kejriwal to issue a clarification or an apology, etc. But let me also point out that despite this whole thing happening, there isn't any apology forthcoming from either the Chief Minister of Delhi or from his party. So where is the question of expecting that they would have apologized? Now, we must also understand that India doesn't exist in isolation and a vacuum. This is a very global world. And the most ironic thing is that the strain that is found mainly in Singapore today, that is infecting all these children, is what is commonly called the Indian strain, B.1.617. And for a chief minister to have spoken without getting his facts right is what has created this whole controversy. I agree, it could have been played down. But that is had one, Singapore not gotten so angry and reacted so quickly, and two, the AAP had also said that yes, we take it back, or whatever way they wanted to put it, but climb down a bit. Neither happened.
Atishi, let me, yes, I heard you, Ms. Kumaramangalam. Atishi is now back with us. Atishi, do you think that in hindsight the tweet could have been worded differently because it led to certain diplomatic complications? And that's what Ms. Kumaramangalam is referring to. That because that happened, the Indian government had to react. So don't see this as politics, see this as a reaction.
Actually, Sanket, I am amazed at, it's almost as if the central government is again and again and again behaving like an ostrich. And you see the pattern happening again and again. You have scientists who were giving warnings before this second wave arrived, that a second wave is coming, it's going to be bigger than the first wave. And yet, vaccines, precious vaccines that could have been used to vaccinate the citizens of India are sent abroad. Why? Because posters are put up abroad in different parts of the world. The central government, the prime minister are seen as saviors of the world, and precious vaccines that India needed are sent abroad. Today, what is the one warning that scientists, epidemiologists, and doctors are giving again and again and again? That there will be a third wave, and that third wave will have the greatest impact on children. Now, is that not a serious matter of concern? Do the BJP, the people in the central leadership of the BJP, not have children in their homes? Are they not worried about it? You have the Singaporean education minister who a couple of days back was on television saying precisely the same thing. That because the current strain in Singapore is affecting children more than any other strain has affected before, we are going to shut down schools. Now, please, Sanket, let us be very clear. You have in the last month what this country has seen has been devastating. We have seen the fact that young people for the first time are dying in large numbers. Now there is a concern that in the next wave, children might be affected. Is that not a concern worth flagging? Or are we only concerned about public opinion in different parts of the world, and that is why first we sent vaccines abroad? We wanted posters put up in Canada. Mr. Shiv Shankar, who was just being referred to, with every consignment that went out of the country, every consignment that went out of the country had a celebratory tweet by Mr. Shiv Shankar. Now the BJP spokesperson may say that there was, those were commercial agreements, this, that, and the other. So, yeah, sorry, Mr. Jaishankar. And so consequently, all India seems to be worried about is its image abroad. I urge the central government and the BJP to be worried about our own citizens. Our own youth have died in the second wave because
okay, would you like to respond?
Let us
Ms.
not do anything that can endanger our children in the third wave.
Try to understand the point. The Aam Aadmi Party says
exactly
that the point of that tweet must be understood. Now, it is a fact that Mr. Kejriwal did not think it through because he spoke about flights not being allowed and all, which are already not in operation. But the point behind
despite the rather passionate spin that has been put on it by Atishi, the fact remains that what may have happened in the last 1 month, etc., has nothing to do with the irresponsibility of the tweet that the Chief Minister of Delhi put out. The Singapore government has not been commenting on India's internal affairs, and that's India's internal affairs. So it's for us to bother about. Also, it's ridiculous to suggest that people in India, except for AAP, of course, are not worried about the fact or are not taking into cognizance the fact that children could well be very badly affected by the possible third wave. We already have two companies in India, Biological E, which is going to produce the Johnson & Johnson one-shot vaccine with a variant for children that is below the age of 18. And Bharat Biotech, which as you know, has been sanctioned third stage trials for a children's vaccine. So to suggest that only AAP is worried about children in India is a load of, it's just a fairy tale, it's dreams, fine.
Sure.
Even if they want to take the credit for that, leave that aside. Why do you have to show your concern for your people's country by issuing such a summary, ill-advised, totally ill-informed statement to a country that has always been a friend of our country? The country consists of Indians, not aliens. Okay, so you can put whatever spin on this. You can blame the BJP as much as you want.
I just have one more minute, and I want to go to Ambassador Singh now.
Sanket,
I've heard your point.
Ms.
Kumaramangalam, I've understood what you're trying to say on the ill-informed nature of the tweet.
Saying that we have absolutely complete
one moment, Ms. Kumaramangalam.
Do we have complete confidence about the fact that there are no mutations taking place, be it in Singapore or in India or any other part of the world?
Okay, Ambassador Singh, I just have 1 minute left. I want to come to you now. Ambassador Singh, the point is, when Singapore... one moment, Atishi, I'll come back to you. Ms. Kumaramangalam as well as Atishi, I have to ask a question to Ambassador Singh. Ambassador Singh, my question is, do you think that Singapore, given the fact that we are talking about coronavirus, sensitivity of information, it could have led to a sense of panic that is there a new Singaporean wave, and that is why they came in. Do you think they were justified in the manner in which they took this up with the Indian government, or they were not justified? That they could have handled it better? through proper
Sanket,
diplomatic
what's
channels
happening
and not
is,
tweets.
if you see the entire region, there is a sudden spurt of infections in Laos, in Vietnam, in Singapore. The Singaporeans were very smug because they were vaccinating. And it started with 2 cases and suddenly it has exploded. It's gone into a few thousand. So I think the Singaporeans were also unnerved because they've not seen so many cases come up so suddenly. And it's happening in the region other than in Indonesia and one other country, probably Philippines. In other countries, it's suddenly come up. Thailand has suddenly had a very large breakout. So their nerves are also frayed. Now, that is not generally known here. Nobody knows it. So you don't realize that the other country may also be very sensitive. But at the same time, there was a way of dealing with it. When we make mistakes, we can always say, this was not my intention. You can step back. And nor is it necessary for Government of India to throw a chief minister under the bus or anybody under the bus. I still remember 98 as the spokesman. Just around the time we tested the bomb, George Fernandez told Karan Thapar, China is enemy number 1. Now, did Atalji throw him under the bus and out of the... It was so embarrassing to, have your defense minister called China enemy number 1. It happens. Mistakes are made. But when foreign countries are concerned, you don't throw your political enemy also under the bus. That is a limited point. And certainly don't use a foreign minister who should remain urbane and a diplomat to be picking on chief ministers. I mean, what are we descending down to?
I think as we end this discussion, the advice of the strategic affairs expert on how to strategically deal with this, or how we should have strategically dealt with this situation, must be heard by both the Aam Aadmi Party as well as the Bharatiya Janata Party, the central government as well as the state government. Thank you very much for joining us on this discussion. Let's move on now to story number 2, joblessness again on a high. This is, of course, for the period of April, when cases had started to rise, when lockdowns were imposed in different parts of the country. What is the situation like? Let's first quickly take a look at this presentation.
A usually bustling industrial area in Noida, the Hosiery complex, now half empty. Unlike last year's lockdown, most factories are functioning, but at a much lower capacity. Aman Upadhyay, a supervisor at a plastic factory, says fewer people are reporting to work because of COVID, not because of job cuts. But the reality at most factories here is very different.
यहाँ से मैं आपको अपनी कंपनी की बात बताऊं तो हमारे यहाँ से कोई भी बंदा फायर नहीं हुआ है। हमने किसी को ये भी नहीं बोला है अभी तक कि आप मत आइए, जो जैसे आ रहा है वैसे ही आ रहा है। जिसकी खुद से स्वेच्छा है, जो अपनी मर्जी से नहीं आना चाहता है, वो नहीं आ रहा है, बाकी सब लोग आ रहे हैं। हमारे यहाँ से किसी को भी फायर या टर्मिनेट नहीं किया गया।
Mukesh Sharma, a worker at a garment factory, says he was asked to quit in February. He managed to find another job, but it is not secure and the pay not enough.
वही बनती थी 7,500 6,000। उससे आपका चल पाता है घर? नहीं चलता, फिर क्या करेंगे बताइए। एक बार तो 42,100 बनी, 4200 रुपये बनी पूरे महीने की, और 10-10 12-12 घंटे काम किया उसमें। उसके बाद कहता है कि भाई कंपनी जो रेट देगी तुम्हें लेना पड़ेगा, हम क्या करेंगे। अब मजबूरी में फिर गरीब आदमी क्या कर सकता है। उसको पूछा भाई क्यों जा रहे हो खाली करके, भाई काम नहीं है क्या करेंगे। अब यहाँ पे 6,000 में तो बच्चे पाले नहीं जाएंगे। काम तो मिलता है, लेकिन कहने मतलब ये है कि उसमें उसका रोटी भी नहीं चल पाता। अब इससे बड़े वो अपने गांव में कर लेगा। वो कहता है भाई बेलदारी मजदूरी करूंगा तो मैं 400 रुपये वहाँ पे झाड़ी डालूंगा, और यहाँ मुझे करूंगा 10 घंटे तो भी 300-325 मिलता है।
He lives in a colony of garment workers, where 35 of the 60 rooms that were occupied before the lockdown have been abandoned. Not because workers are scared of the virus, he says, but because their earnings are too little to justify staying. CMI data shows that urban unemployment in industrial areas such as this has increased from 12 to 15% in just the past week. But in the same period, rural unemployment has doubled from 7% to 14%.
We have spoken to staff at 6 factories here in the Hosiery Industrial Complex in Noida. They tell us that all factories are operating at less than half their usual capacity, and that workers who are from UP and Bihar have chosen to leave for their villages. But the villages are in between sowing seasons and there are no jobs there. With Pooja Arya, Meher Pandey for NDTV.
All right, joining us right now is the Managing Director and CEO of Centre for Monitoring Indian Economy Private Limited, or CMIE. This is the company that released the data on unemployment. Mr. Vyas, thank you very much for joining us. What does this latest CMIE report indicate on unemployment?
Well, I guess you are alluding to the employment, unemployment numbers and consumer sentiment. CMI puts out a lot of data on a regular basis. So what we see is a sharp drop in consumer sentiments and a rising trend in unemployment. There are job losses, there is rising unemployment, there is a fall in the labor participation rate, and there are sentiments that are going down because incomes are going down.
How do you see this, Mr. Vyas, in comparison to 2020 when there was a lockdown then? There was a fair bit of job losses then as well.
You know, it's a little complex to understand that, but the summary statement I can make from there is that it is not as damaging as it was in April 21 and even April and May 2020. But it is, I would call it more alarming. I would call it more worrying than what we saw a year ago. A year ago, we had high uncertainties. We didn't know when the vaccine will be found. We didn't know when the pandemic will subside. We know many of these things now. And in spite of having a vaccine in hand, or more than one vaccine in hand, of course, we seem to be in a deeper mess. A deeper mess because we see people losing incomes even now. Just to give you a small idea, we have noticed that only 3% of the households told us that their incomes are better than a year ago, and this is in nominal terms, which means that more than 97% of the households are witnessing a contraction in their incomes compared to a year ago in real terms. So I think this is very worrying. A year after the pandemic, we are still in a situation where we see income contraction. I think we will soon face a serious demand constraint because of the situation.
Mr. Vyas, would you be able to tell us what are the worst hit sectors?
I think we should see this as a across-the-board problem. We have so far survived by intermediate industries doing well. Intermediate industries can do well only to a certain point, a point where demand is absorbing the excess of the supplies. But if demand shrinks, it's going to impact all sectors. So, it's not going to be the case this time that pent-up demand will see the FMCG sector sail through. It's not going to be the case that consumer durables will come back in the festive season. We need to worry about not just the transport, hotel and restaurant and transport and tourism sectors getting hit this time. The hit is more likely to be across the board.
Mr. Vyas, what has been the impact on the informal sector? Because, most of these reports only suggest and target or project what is the reality in the formal sector. What about the informal sector?
The informal sector is hit very badly, and it presents a picture that can sometimes be confusing. What we are noticing is that salary declines or loss of jobs is happening in the salaried employees nowadays. So for 3 consecutive months, in the months of February, March, and April, we saw salary jobs decline, but not the daily wage earners, not the informal sector people. This is because those people cannot afford to lose jobs, but they are losing incomes. So while the informal jobs come back quickly, if you're pushing a cart, you can push a cart, but you get paid less for it. Salary jobs are being lost, but income of the informal sector people is being lost in a bigger way, which is not seen in the employment data.
Right, Mr. Vyas, my final question. Obviously, we'll need revival plans beyond the Atmanirbhar package and all the packages that were given by the government. I want to know from you, at what speed do these need to be implemented to be able to contain this fresh bout of unemployment?
Well, the efforts required have doubled compared to what it was a year ago. So we haven't solved the problem. For example, labor participation rate that fell very sharply in April and May 2020 came back, but then they stabilized after not having completely recovered. So we have a lot to cover, and we have to solve the current problem. So I'll say whatever was the solution a year ago, we require to double up.
All right, Mr. Mahesh Vyas, thank you very much for joining us. That's a wrap in this edition of Trending Tonight. News continues on the other side. Stay with us.